But I want to talk about Chatgpt.
Fascinating question.
Yeah.
Have you experimented with it at all?
I have not, but someone, the gentleman who runs the JRE companion page, made a rap with Chatgpt. Like, was it if Kanye West wrote a rap for Chatgpt? They put it on Instagram, but it's like, it seems like a person saying it. Like,
you want to try it?
No.
Okay. We could try anything you want.
I mean, it takes a long time.
Really.
His thing took like 48 minutes to do.
Well, whatever you want to look up right now, we can do it.
Yeah, the problem is you have to cajole it. It'll get something
use
wrong,
it.
and you have
But
to say,
let's just
no, not
explain
that
what
way.
it is.
So ChatGPT is a large language model trained artificial intelligence, which is, let's just say, it can be awful, but it is often surprisingly good at answering questions you might have about how to do things. One of the great triumphs of it is that coders are now asking it to solve coding problems, and it will actually write code that is functional. It's pretty amazing. And it also, there's an implementation of it that if you feed it up to 3 tweets, it will write a New York Times story in one of 5 genres, optimistic, pessimistic, neutral. And, you don't really need the New York Times anymore because it's pretty good at this job, right? So on the one hand, it's all very interesting that we're living in an era in which there is at least, and this is a prototype, right? This is a prototype that was specifically trained and then placed on the internet so people could play with it, and I've seen lots of interesting uses. It's going to get better, right? We're dealing with ChatGPT 3. There's going to be a ChatGPT 4, which is going to be that much better because it will be built with the improvements that have been gained through turning this one loose on the world. But I have to say, I am quite alarmed. Not only that this thing exists, but I don't think we're ready for it. And I don't think we're ready for it in a couple different ways. I mean, if you want to comfort yourself and say, well, this isn't that serious that we have this AI that can do these really shocking things, the comforting thing is that the way it's programmed, it doesn't know what it's saying. It doesn't matter that it convinces you that it's saying something and it means it and that it seems like a creative entity. What it's doing is it is basically using a predictive model that has been trained on a huge data set of written language, right? So the answer is, if you take 3 words in a row, can you predict what the next word is going to be? And they've exposed it to a large data set, and it's gotten really good at predicting basically these sequences to the point that it can now, if you prompt it correctly, it can spit out these very long explanations. Some of them are dead wrong. Sometimes they're right on target. But I have 2 concerns about it. One, if you imagine that this thing just gets a little better than it is, which is inevitable, that it's going to make actual insight that much harder to spot, right? In other words, if you become expert at operating this thing, at querying it, and it becomes better at understanding a wider range of topics because they turn it loose on everything that's written on the internet, for example, right? Then the point is the ability to fake expertise is going to go through the roof. I don't think we know how we're going to police a world in which, this problem's already bad enough. Most academics are fakers.
What have your people done? Your AI people with this fucking Chatgpt shit. This scares the fuck out of me. It's your people.
What do you mean?
Your AI people. Your wacky coders. What have you done?
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Fascinating.
Language models, I don't know if you know what those are, but that's the general systems that underlie ChatGPT and GPT. They've been progressing over the past maybe 4 years aggressively. There's been a lot of development. GPT-1, GPT-2, GPT-3, GPT 3.5. And ChatGPT, there's a lot of interesting technical stuff that maybe we don't want to get into.
Sure, let's get into it.
Well,
I'm fascinated by it.
So ChatGPT is based on fundamentally on a 175 billion parameter neural network that is GPT-3. And the rest is what data is it trained on and how is it trained. So you already have like a brain, a giant neural network, and it's just trained in different ways. So GPT-3 came out about 2 years ago, and it was like impressive but dumb in a lot of ways. It was like you would expect as a human being for it to generate certain kinds of text, and it was like saying kind of dumb things that were off. And you're like, all right, this is really impressive, but it's not quite there. You can tell it's not intelligent. And what they did with GPT 3.5 is they started adding more and different kinds of data sets there. One of them, probably the smartest neural network currently, is Codex, which is fine-tuned for programming. Like it was trained on code, on programming code. And when you train on programming code, which ChatGPT is also, you're teaching it something like reasoning, because it's no longer information and knowledge from the internet. It's also reasoning. You can like logic. Even though you're looking at code, programming code is, you're looking at me like, what the fuck is he talking about?
No, that's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at you like, oh my God.
But reasoning is in order to be able to stitch together sentences that make sense, you not only need to know the facts that underlie those sentences, you also have to be able to reason.
Yeah.
And we take it for granted as human beings that we can do some common sense reasoning. Like this war started at this date and ended at this date, therefore it means that like the start and the end has a meaning. There's a temporal consistency. There's a cause and effect. All of those things are inside programming code. By the way, a lot of stuff I'm saying we still don't understand. We're like intuiting why this works so